For this project, I'm going to show you how to create a basic layout to start working with Maya. I'm going to be importing some reference images, and I'm going to start creating some layers so I can get things done a little bit more quickly. So the first thing that I want to do here is going to be open Maya. So I'm going to have that open over here, and I'm going to set up the project. Now, in order to do that, I need to go to File and then Project Window. In here, I will just be creating new, and this one is going to be a simple model, so Pokeball. That is going to let me show you some of the concepts. Then the location I'm going to be just saving in my desktop, and everything else is just the default is perfect. So I'm going to hit accept, and what is going to happen is that is going to create a new folder inside of my desktop, which is going to be this one. Now over here, when I open it, it is going to be showing me all of the folders that Maya needs for specific things. Most of these folders are going to get auto-generated, and such. I don't really need to have them all at once. And it's pretty cluttered here. So what I'm gonna do is just gonna keep on the melt file. I'm gonna keep on the source images and the scenes images, and I'm gonna delete the rest of them. The scenes image folder is where Maya saves all of your .mb or MA files, everything that you need in order to reproduce the scene that you're creating. We're gonna be using it for the simple models. And then the source images is where it's gonna be reading all of the textures that are gonna go into your models, like all of the maps that are going to make your model look better. So the workspace.mel is basically just the configuration file that Maya is going to be saving. If I was to open this into a text file editor, it is going to be showing me the configuration, the paths, and all of those things. I'm going to go inside of the source images, and I already have prepped what is going to be our model. So this is going to be the Pokeball look. I have the 4 views. 2 of them are going to be my orthographic views from the front and from the side, and then this is going to be the perspective view in a 3/4. So I already have all of those files separated here. I'm going to just make them a little bit larger so you can see them in. I'm not working with any 3D Painter textures right now, so I'm just gonna get that out of the way. I'm gonna have the reference of the Pokeball, the front, side, and top. So going back to Maya, what I'm going to do here is first off, I'm going to make sure that I have the outliner and I have my poly count, which is going to be very beneficial when we start working with poly count budgets. In this case, in order to display that, I need to go to display, heads up display, and then work with poly count. So poly count here is going to enable or disable that. If I press G, that is going to repeat the last action that I did in Maya. This is not like a redo. This is just like reuse the last tool that you used. And in this case, as this is a toggle, if I go to my display, heads up display, and do that, that is just going to repeat the pressing the poly count. But anyway, so that is how I set up the poly count. In that way, if I have the sphere, as you can see, this is made out of 760. If I reduce the poly count in here, let's say 16, now the triangles are going to go lower than that. And if I say, hey, just select some of these faces, that is going to be giving me a new count of faces. Out of the 480, I have 208 selected. So that said, I'm going to get this out of the way, and what I want to do is start working with references. So I don't want to work with the reference on the perspective because that all of these are camera based, and if I made a reference here, if I go to File, Image Plane, Import Image, and I say, hey, select the front, for instance, that is going to be just stuck to the camera. So whenever I move around, notice how this Pokeball doesn't really change at all. I'm just going to take that out. So that a simple undo is going to be fine. What I really want is to add them to these 3 views. The more the better, but in some cases you may get away with just having a front one. So in here I'm going to go to view, then I'm going to go to my image plane and import image. That is going to open a window. It's going to say, what is the one that you want to work with? Again, well, it's going to be the front, so I'm just going to put it over here. Then I will do that for the other 2 views. This is going to be my view, image plane, import image, and this one is going to be my side view. And then the next one here is going to be my view, import image, and that is going to be the top view. So Now with that, on the perspective, you see that everything is pretty well lined up, and that is just because how I created textures in Photoshop. In some cases you might need to adjust manually, so just like any other transformation you do in Maya, just arrange them in some place. By the way, in most of these cases I'm just going to be using the shortcuts, the Q for selection, W for moving, E for rotating, and R for scaling. But all of those buttons are pretty much here on the left side. So again, I'm gonna select this thing, and I don't necessarily need to line it up, but what I want to is get it out of the way so I can actually use this space for modeling. Now here I'm just going to move it to something like -5, and I'm gonna use this one as -5 as well. And as you can see, that is not really affecting or modifying how big this object is. Like I can select it here and move it really far away or really close by, and that is not going to affect it because this is going to be an orthographic view. So the last one that I'm going to need to modify is going to be this plane. I'm just going to put it down, and this is going to be -5 as well. So that sort of sets it up like that. I'm going to press spacebar once again in this case, and in here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to disable the floor because I'm not going to be using it in the perspective in this particular step, at least not for this model. But what I need though is I'm going to have to select all of them in what I call a marquee selection, or it's actually called a marquee selection. It's basically clicking here and then don't let go until you have all of the objects you want, select them, and then put it over there. In here I'm going to click on this plus sign, and when I do, that is going to create a new layer based on the selection that I have. See, if I click here, nothing is going to get selected here. This is really empty selections, so I'm just going to delete these layers, so I can recreate a new layer based on the object selected. See here, click on that. That is going to be making a new layer based on the objects that I have selected. This one is just going to be an empty layer, but this one is going to be the one that has all of these objects selected. Okay, so now I'm going to double click on it and I'm going to rename it. This one is going to be my reference image layer. Okay, so color doesn't matter, but it's just a matter of preference here. For me, just want to keep it in red so it's really noticeable right in my face, and I can enable and disable these images whenever they are in my way. So depending on your preferences or from whomever you're making this model, you may need to rename these appropriately because image 1, 2, and 3, what does that even mean? Just plain sight, I have to actually click on them in order to be able to know what they are. So this one I'm just going to be calling it like my ref front. This one is going to be my ref side, and this one is going to be my ref top. Now with these three selected, it's time to start saving my file. So this one is going to be my file, and save scene as. That is going to open my window, and as you can see, it's actually going to the actual address in which this is saved. So this is going to be on scenes, and in here I'm just going to call this Pokeball. Now once again, if there is any naming convention that you need to follow, be sure to follow that on the name file as well. For now, I'm just going to save it as the name of the file, and I'm just going to hit save as. Yeah, I want to continue with the student version, and that is basically it for this video. I'm going to transition on to other topics in the next lesson. So for now, this is just going to be the very beginning on how to set up your project inside of Maya.